Hey, it's a huge honor for me today to be hooking up in Singapore with my drinking buddy from Sydney, Australia. Last time I was visiting my brother in Sydney, I was with two of my sons. It was Greg and Zach, and we went out to a restaurant, and you were there.
That's correct.
And my God, you are the life of the party. You are, you are my boys. I think the biggest memory was them hanging out with you that night. They
I,
really did have a blast.
I tried to look after them.
Well, you did, and they had fun. So you're quite the fellow. We're about the same age. You graduated in 1988 from Melbourne University. I was graduating in '87. You're a president of the Dental Student Society in '86. You've done so many things. Your private practice in Melbourne today, right?
That's correct.
That's where you practice now. You're married, you got three children, two girls, a boy. Your goal is to educate the public about dentistry and have clients empowered to work with their dentist to achieve the healthy smiles they want. You've been lecturing for progressive orthodontics for how long?
About
A decade?
9, 10 years,
Yeah,
yeah.
a decade. And Progressive Orthodontics has been the worldwide leader in comprehensive orthodontic continuing education since 1984. Over this time, it has developed a training philosophy that is practical, easy, reproducible, and effective in allowing students to quickly make a return on their investment while also giving care to the highest standards in the world. The philosophy also incorporates lifetime education with the free lifetime retake policy and unparalleled access to instructors outside of class hours. These philosophies have helped develop a loyal worldwide following with over 5,000 members of the POS family. That's Progressive Orthodontic Systems.
Yep.
In 2008, Progressive Dentistry was formed to take these same philosophies to other areas outside of orthodontics. What started out as one course taught by one of our top orthodontics instructors has rapidly expanded into a career with a wide variety of offerings in all the exciting topics of dentistry. Currently, all classes are taught at a state-of-the-art teaching center at our headquarters in Alice Viejo, California.
That's the head office.
That's
Yep.
the head office. They have also brought many courses to international. I know from my buddy Alan Miller, the founder of AMD Lasers. That's Alan Miller Design Lasers. You're also teaching his AMD lasers, right?
That's correct.
Picasso.
I do that for Dentsply in Australia because they do it. And then in Singapore, I'm doing a lecture tomorrow night on the AMD lasers for all the Singaporeans.
And we were messaging each other today that we're both in Singapore at the same time. So I talked him in to coming by the hotel and doing a podcast. So you're talking to thousands of dentists. Let's start with two things. Is orthodontics something a general practitioner should add to their? I mean, if they're doing fillings and crowns, do you think they should get into orthodontics?
I don't think you can do dentistry without knowing orthodontics. And I think it's a total shame that it's no university in the entire world teaches orthodontics properly to general dentists for whatever reasons.
It's
And
because they didn't pay enough money. They're only graduating with $350,000 in students, so $250,000. How could they have incorporated ortho?
well, everything is orthodontics. Like you're doing porcelain veneers, you're doing periodontics, you're doing implants. Like everything is learning orthodontics. I think one of the reasons is orthodontists are a bit scared that dentists will take over the market. But I know, like I'm lecturing today to 50 Singaporeans in the class, and we're doing the advanced class, and them learning the advanced system doesn't mean they'll do it. They'll just know what not to do. They'll learn to diagnose, they'll learn what's within their capabilities, and they'll learn to refer what's not. There'll be a chunk of dentists who are so excited, they'll go and do everything that we're teaching them. So I don't think the orthodontic world should be scared of general dentists doing orthodontics. I think it opens up the market for everybody. And everything we do in dentistry is orthodontics. But just everything, case after case. We're doing an update in April this year, and we called it multidisciplinary, where it's periodontics, it's implants, it's prosthodontics, and how to combine orthodontics in all of those. It just makes us better general dentists.
I agree, and I don't think in 2016 you can call yourself a cosmetic dentist without unraveling these teeth before you do veneers. I remember back when I got out of school in '87, when you went to a lecture of a famous cosmetic dentist, it'd be massively crowded teeth, and they'd have to file them all down with a drill. Oftentimes, having to do a root canal
Exactly.
on a couple of the teeth because to get them straight, you had to do endo. And now standard of care is unraveling those teeth before you would do something like that.
Exactly, and doing it within your capabilities and what you're happy to do. Or refer, you still refer. No different to endodontics. You do the endos you're happy to do, or refer the ones you're not. Periodontics, do the perio you're happy to do, or refer to a periodontist. So we teach that you can do anything. So anything's possible, especially with skeletal anchorage now and orthodontic pins. To be controversial, I think a lot of the maxillary surgery isn't needed anymore. Mandibular advancement, yes, because of the retruded mandible. But a lot of this gingival display, we're teaching dentists how to just put some pins in the jaw, give them some paracetamol and go home. And we can correct gingival display nowadays without maxillary surgery.
Okay, explain how you do that.
It's very easy. It's the orthodontics. So what do you do? One, you've got to diagnose the case. You've got to diagnose what is the problem. Is the problem that it's delayed passive eruption? If that's the problem, well, then it's a cosmetic gingivectomy. The other problem is it maxillary excess? So it's the diagnosis that's the difficult part. If it's maxillary excess, well, then you can put a couple of little pins into their bone, and you can just lift that maxilla up, knowing the orthodontics behind it. And it's very easy, and it's still an 18-month case. It's a very easy case, whereas a lot of the orthodontic world is still doing orthognathic surgery, which is like a car accident. And I don't know why a lot of people are still doing that. So that's the very basic orthodontics behind it. Or it could be they've got a short lip, and so there's a surgical procedure for that. Or it could be that they need some Botox to stop their top lip moving up. So once you decide what the problem is, a general dentist can deal with all of that nowadays and deal with it simply.
So you're hitting the big 5-0 this year, right?
That's right.
When we got out of school, there really wasn't clear aligners. It was all brackets and bands. Do you see the market really shifting towards away from brackets and bands to clear aligners like Invisalign or Clear Connect or all these different brands? Or where's your stance on that?
Me personally, I'm more of a purist. So I like the braces because it definitely does a nicer job. But in saying that, I'm not silly because Invisalign and Clear Connect, like the market wants it. So in our practice, we offer all those things too. So we look at the case, we show the patient. See, we don't rely on the company Invisalign to tell us what to do because we know the orthodontics behind it. So we can diagnose the case and say to the patient, this is what you'll get from Invisalign. This is what you'll get from braces, what we can achieve. This will be the difference between the two. Which would you like? And then the patient decides which way they want to go. And if someone came in for Invisalign, I would say probably 30% of those will go to braces because we could diagnose what each system would do. And then the ones who still want Invisalign, well, we do the Invisalign. We don't have problems with it at all.
Now, what's the cost difference of fixed braces versus Invisalign?
The fixed braces is cheaper.
By like what kind of factor?
Well, I can only go by Australia. Let's say a simple fixed braces case in Australia would be around about, say, the 6,000 kind of mark for a simple level alignment, whereas Invisalign for a simple case could be 6.5, 6.8.
Well, what would the lab fees be on Invisalign versus fixed?
Well, see, that's the problem because Invisalign would be $3,500, whereas braces would cost the dentist about $180.
And
so the profit in the braces is much higher.
And that is not nearly as big of an issue in a very rich country like Australia or Canada or New Zealand or Germany or Scandinavia. But when you get to a poorer country, like Vietnam or Cambodia or Malaysia or Indonesia, that lab fee that just the lab fee alone is more than they can get for the whole braces. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, 100%. Like Progressive, we teach in Vietnam, Progressive has become part of one of the university courses for the general dentist in Indonesia now. So they're going to be learning orthodontics like no other university teaches. But we teach...
In Jakarta?
No, it's in Medan, I believe.
Medan.
Yeah. But we teach in Nepal. And Nepal charges $800 for an orthodontic case. And so we go there and we teach them how to do it. And Progressive sells their own brackets, but it doesn't mean you have to use it because we teach orthodontics. So they go and get their brackets from Pakistan or China for $80, and we teach them how to use them and the problems they'll have with that prescription and those wires, etc. Because if you know the problems of the bracket, well, then you can deal with it. It's just Progressive's brackets save you a lot of those problems. But we can teach you the ortho behind any system. It doesn't matter. So $800, the Nepalese is still making profit.
I want to ask you another old-timers question now that you're hitting the big 5-0. And I got to get these questions out before you croak dead on me. Has the X-rays going from 2D pano, 2D ceph to 3D, has that been a game changer in your orthodontic career, or not really?
I think at the moment, like we're seeing a lot of things, like I've got a 3D machine in my clinic, and it can be a bit scary where before you thought you had bone, etc., and if you're taking a 3D X-ray, you realise there probably wasn't any bone there in the beginning. So that's I think going to be a problem, especially with some brackets that are expansion brackets. They go, oh, we don't extract anything. Like I extract very few cases because I just don't like extractions for ortho, but you got to do some. But these cases that are just expanding everything, I think 3D X-rays, if you took it beforehand, you probably realise that you don't have the bone there in the beginning. So I think as it progresses, we may not want to look at those X-rays as much as we probably will in the future. I think it's going to be scary once we start looking at them a lot more. But it's great for impacted canines. It's fantastic for knowing, where the inferior alveolar canal is. It's great for that, especially when you're adding all the surgery to your own orthodontics.
Do you think another thing that's appealing about orthodontics is the fact that if you're in a country where the insurance companies dominate the fees, they tend to dominate the fees on x-rays, fillings, exams, but usually ortho is cosmetic and not really controlled by the insurance. Is the fact that you can set your own orthodontic fees, is that a big part of why you like ortho?
Orthodontics is the only field in Australia now where we can set our own fee.
It's the only one.
It's the only one. Implants, there's competition now, so we actually reduced our fee and we market more and we're doing more of them. Fillings, we can't increase our fees because people around us, they're with health funds or corporates or something, they're dictated, so we can't increase our fees. Whereas I agree, orthodontics at the moment is the only thing that we can do what we want to do. And the other beautiful thing is the orthodontists don't want general dentists to do orthodontics, so they scare a lot of the general dentists off, which I think is absolutely fantastic, because if a lot of dentists are scared off from doing orthodontics, that keeps the fees up too. So we have to thank the orthodontists for scaring everybody off a bit. It maintains the fees.
Singapore is one of the it's one of the only countries I've ever been to where they all claim they have a shortage of dentists and they need more dentists. And
it's changing though.
Yeah.
It's changing a lot. Yeah, it's changing
I'm
everywhere.
I'm trying to get all the American dentists to come to Singapore so I have less competition in Phoenix, especially the dentists in Phoenix should really move to Singapore.
But the dentists here, they'll see patients at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. They've got no qualms of going to work at any time. They work very hard in Singapore.
I don't want to say this because it sounds so racist, but it actually is racist. But Asian people just have some of the highest, hardest work ethics anywhere you go around the world.
100%.
I mean, you just go to China and nobody thinks twice about working sun up to sundown 7 days a week forever. And I mean, these dentists I talk to in Singapore, I mean, they'll work till 9 o'clock at night and they just think that's normal.
That's right. Well,
Do you think the Asian dentists have a higher work ethic than, say, Australia, where you're from?
100%. They'll work any day, any time. They'll see you whenever. They do work a lot harder.
Yeah.
I know in the class, some dentists finish the class and go to work at 5 o'clock just to keep seeing patients.
Yeah.
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 But I suppose that's why Progressive's becoming quite big within Asia now, because they're earning more, they're becoming wealthier countries, and so now orthodontics is becoming something that they want to do. It's something they can now afford. The same as the cakes and the Western diets, and they're putting on weight. And
I've
all of that.
heard it the most from Asian dentists saying that their dental work is their life. Their life is their dental, and their dental office is their life. And I mean, they just love it. That's all they do.
Yeah, yeah.
And they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Australia has two publicly traded dental chains on your, what is it called, the FTSE? Your stock market? Is it the
No, the ASX.
the ASX has
Yeah.
two publicly traded chains. One's 1,300 Smiles,
Yeah,
and one's Pacific Smiles.
yeah. And then there's Dental Corporation,
So there's three publicly traded.
I believe. One of them just got bought by one of the big health funds.
So the United States has zero publicly traded corporate dentistries. The biggest one, Heartland, has like 1,500 offices, but there's none publicly traded. There used to be 20 years ago, Orthodontic Centers of America, and about a dozen on NASDAQ, and they're all been delisted. So tell us, what's it like in Australia to have three publicly traded corporate dental chains? That was something that wasn't existing when you got out of school.
No, not at all.
So that's changed. Is that a good thing, bad thing, neutral thing? What tell us about that?
Well, I suppose it's a good thing if you're running that company. But if you're not running that company, well, then it's not a good thing. Well, the big thing that's just come out in Australia just in the past week is one of the big health funds owns a lot of practices.
Dental practices.
Yeah.
And what's the name of that health fund?
Bupa.
Okay,
Bupa.
spell that for me.
BUPA.
Is that the
I believe it's Dental Partners is the company they bought.
Dental Partners, the company they bought?
Yeah. And so what happened, though, is all these health funds used to use private dentists who would join the health fund and charge health fund fees, and the health fund would send their patients to them. And so the health fund was using that as a marketing tool to get more and more people into the health fund. And everyone was telling the dentists, don't join the health funds because you're just making them stronger and stronger. But these dentists were going, oh no, it's a really good system, we'll help the health funds. So what the health fund Bupa did is they just went out and bought Dental Partners, and I might be wrong, but they owned something like 180 practices overnight.
And this is a company that sells dental insurance.
They sell dental insurance and health insurance. So overnight, they now own their own 180 practices. Let's say that's the number. So these other dentists who were preferred providers, what's happening now is if the health fund owns a practice near you, well, they don't want you anymore because they've got their own practice. So they're beginning to delist these practices or beginning to tell these dentists that you're not our preferred provider anymore. But these practices, 80% of their patients would be health fund patients. So these dentists are now in the past week going to the Australian Dental Association saying, you must help us, this is unethical. And I've been voicing it for a long time, and I can't speak for the Australian Dental Association because that's up to them. But they've been saying for a long time as well that you shouldn't have done it. We told you not to join them. We told you that they're interested in their own pockets. They're only interested in their EBITs, their 20% they can just take out of the dental practice. And now that they own their own practices, why should they use you? Now, if you're a health fund provider who owns the practices, I'd be doing the same thing as what they do. And these dentists are going, oh, but the health fund's telling the patients to leave us. Well, for years, because I'm not a health fund provider, I had to learn how to market in that environment where my patients kept being told to leave and go to a health fund provider because it's cheaper. So I had to incorporate ortho and perio and endo, and I had to learn, and we had to train our staff to offer service, which is something you talk about all the time, like a good restaurant. So we had to be like a very good restaurant so everyone felt welcomed. And so for years we've learned to market within our environment. Like we send 70,000 newsletters to all our environment so people only know our practice. Last year we did 4,000 school students, so they only know our practice. So marketing is becoming bigger and bigger, and you have to keep thinking about it in this harder environment. So these dentists who are now losing their patients, it's like, well, join our world now, but you've got to start from scratch because the health funds will just take them away from you. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. You made them big, and now they're bigger.
So do you want me to tell you how this is going to play out?
How?
You know, one of the most fun things about being 53 years old, when you lived half a century, you don't see many things for the first time. It's always, oh, I saw that a long time ago. So let's roll back to when I was 24. One of the biggest insurance companies in America was Cigna, and they had the same great idea. Why am I having my patients go to these private dental offices and then billing me? We're going to set up our own dental offices. So they started rolling out all these corporate Cigna dental offices where they were going to sell the insurance and provide the dentistry. And then when they started providing the dentistry, they were like, these clinics were running massive losses, and they couldn't figure out why they were running losses. And it took them about a decade to get out of all those offices and close them down because they thought, we are not going to provide the dentistry because the dentists are too willing to do this at a loss at their own office. And if we do it the way all of our dentists think the dentistry should be done based on our fees and premiums, we're losing money. So they said, let's just concentrate on selling the dentistry and let these dentists provide these services at a loss.
Yeah, and that happened in England too, I think, with Boots pharmacies. They went out and bought all these different practices, and they just sold the whole lot. So what I'm hoping is that these accountants running the practice, the problem is they're going to start getting dentists on wages. And it'll be like the NHS, or they'll just be doing rubbish, and practices like ours that are one-stop shops with the ortho, the perio. I do a lot of TMD work. I still refer to people because you must refer. There's other people with more skills than me in certain fields. But at least the patient feels like they're being controlled. It's a bit like women go to hairdressers and pay an absolute fortune for a haircut, but they could actually go to a chain hairdresser and pay $20. Well, I want the people who don't want to go to the $20 haircut place. I want the ones who want the proper haircut and the proper colouring. Come to us and we'll look after you. And that's the marketing that we put into it. And I think dental practices that spend time on becoming a bit more boutique will survive this. It's harder for us, but we will survive this. And hopefully the big funds run by accountants realise, hey, a lot of these dentists on wages, well, they can't afford to go to any course and learn anything. And why should they? They'll just watch TV and know all the TV shows instead.
I don't think two bald men should be talking about hairdressers, but I want to follow on that deal. But what hairdressers and dentists have in common is the hairdresser is touching the patient. It's all surgery. When you go to a physician, not even 20% are surgeons. 80% are just reading reports and writing prescriptions. And study after study after study shows at least half of any market, the people are extremely particular on who is going to touch them. Who's going to lean them back, open their mouth, touch their body. I mean, dentists, we work with our hands. We're all surgeons. And so half of every market, at the end of the day, some woman's going to be extremely concerned, like, I'll let him touch me and do work on my tooth, but I went to that person and I'm never going back. And I don't care if I have the insurance there. I don't care what they say. I did not like that person. So You were talking about you mailed out 70,000 pieces of mail.
We do that every 10 weeks
You mail out 70,000.
to homes, mail delivery in the letterbox.
70,000 every 10 weeks. Talk about that. 70,000 every 10 weeks. So there's 52 weeks in here, so 5 times a year.
We do it. Yep. Well, it's just part of our marketing, because if we do the letter drops, if we do the school talks in those same areas.
And what are the school talk? Did you just do that during Dental Health Month, like February?
No. We've got a whole list of schools we'll always go to. So all year long, we're always going to as many schools as we possibly can. Our nurses do it. My wife's an old ex-school teacher, so she does some of them. She writes the programs. See, the thing is
put your wife to work. Good job. Good job. That should be part of your seminar. How to put your wife to work.
She's very good. So, but see, dentists think, oh, well, I'm just going to go to schools, or I'm just going to write this letter and put it in letterbox drops. No, you've got to trial the letter. You've got to, it takes a long time to get a letter that actually works. You just can't put any letter into the letterbox.
Now, do these letters have an economic incentive, like a coupon, like bring this in and get $50 off tooth whitening, or?
No, we found that doesn't work. For
doesn't
our
work.
market, we've offered the cheaper whitening, the 2-for-1 whitening. We've offered all these whitening and cheaper deals.
And it's not working.
We don't get one person coming in, ever. We just do an educational kind of letter. It's a nice marketing kind of letter. And I always write a really good article, like the latest article in the letter was about that gingival display where you smile and people show gum. And if you go to a lot of the orthodontic world, they'll do orthognathic surgery and break your maxilla like a car accident. Whereas I'll just put a couple of pins in and fix it, and you're back at work in 2 days' time after the pins. But of course the ortho will continue. So that's those kind of things, learning what's out there and then giving it to the market. And that's very big for us.
So every 10 weeks, 5 times a year, you put out how many pages is this newsletter?
1, back and front.
Back and front.
Yeah.
And is it like folded up?
It has to be properly folded, and you've got to find a company that will put it in the letterbox, not amongst all of the supermarket stuff.
Oh,
not with the newspaper.
So you're not mailing it.
No.
You're having someone put it on the doorstep.
In with the mail. It's got to go in the mailbox.
It's got to go in the mailbox, but not by the mailman.
No, because the mailman's too expensive now.
Yeah. Now in the United States, that's illegal.
Is it?
Only the government has the government. Leave it to the government. Only the government can stick something in the mailbox.
Yeah, no, we can do it.
So in the United States, you can rubber band it around the doorknob, or stick it in the front door screen. Or,
right. Well, doing that 70,000 times is pretty difficult then.
Yeah.
So no, we're lucky.
Is that your main marketing?
No, we do everything. You got to do social media now.
Talk about that. What do you do on social media?
We have a Facebook page, and we're trying to build that up. My daughter does Instagram, because I actually don't have a clue how it works, all these hashtag stuff. So she'll always find new things to put onto Instagram as well. We do a lot of internal marketing. Internal marketing is, even though we're number 1 on Google, so we've got a huge website. Our website had the most information on it, and we got beaten by Wikipedia. That's the website I created many years ago. So
what is your website?
FirstBite.com.au.
FirstBite.com.au. So FirstBite.com.au.
And with your listeners, don't go and steal stuff, because other people, they steal it and put it on their website.
Now, if you went to just FirstBite.com, it'd probably still go to you? FirstBite.com?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's still our practice website.
Right.
But that makes us number 1 on Google.
For searching a dentist in Melbourne?
More, if you search dentist in our locality, will come up. But because I do a lot of things, like I do a lot of TMD work, I'll come up with TMD. The orthodontics will come up.
So you're in Melbourne, Australia.
Yep.
Which is the home of probably one of the largest dental companies in all of Australia and New Zealand, SDI.
Yep.
And what does that stand for?
Southern Dental Industries.
Southern Dental Industry, which I believe is the largest amalgam manufacturer in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they'd be one of the last, wouldn't they?
Well, it's definitely. I think it's the largest. Is it? So I wanted to ask you. So you're in Melbourne. Um, there. How many dentists are in Australia? Maybe 12,000.
Yep, there's about 4,500 in Victoria.
Okay, so that's you're all practicing around the largest amalgam manufacturer in the world, SDI. Are you guys all using amalgam?
No, I don't. I haven't for a long time. I know you still like it because I listen to all your podcasts. I don't, and purely because of the colour of it. So we don't use it. I haven't for a long time. I don't have a major issue with composites if they're done properly. Do they last as long as amalgams? Probably not. But my clientele just wouldn't. They don't like amalgams in their mouths.
And I agree with everything you just said. But to be clear on my stance, is that there's 2 million dentists around the world. Let me tell you about how I've seen this happen more times than I ever want to count. You go into the dental office, and the little poor girl comes in a country where the average person makes $3 a day, and she points to a brown spot. The dental chair is a chair like we're sitting in. The dentist is by himself, has a bucket. He starts drilling on the tooth,
Yeah.
and he's drilling and drilling and drilling, and then he gets out the kit and he paints on the acid, and then the woman takes a cup of water, swishes, spits in a bucket, and then he puts on the resin, and then he'll cure that, and then she'll rinse and spit, and then he'll squeeze on the composite, and then he'll shine it, and I'm standing behind, in country after country, thinking, oh, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
And so when they hear rich, fancy doctors from Australia and New Zealand and Canada say, I don't ever use amalgam, they don't realize who's listening. And I believe that almost 1 million dentists on earth do not have the high-speed suction, the vacuum, the isolation, and they need to be placing posterior amalgams. And the technique that they're using to place these posterior composites it's absurd. It's comical.
Yeah, well, they're not going to work.
I mean, nothing went right. So what I like about amalgam is that if you don't have high-speed suction, if you don't have a rubber dam, if you don't have a dental assistant, and you're not going to get isolation, and there's going to be fluids, wet, water, blood, whatever, amalgam is so forgiving. And I just cringe when these dentists hear dentists from rich countries bad-mouthing amalgam. And I think in a world, but you're right, it's just, I should quit being an old crotchety fart and just get off the bandwagon, because the last straw of death for a mercury was, mercury in a filling, it's an insoluble salt, it's not a health issue. If you think it is, you just, if you think placing a silver filling insoluble salt with silver, zinc, copper, mercury, and tin is a health issue. But I just don't see what you're talking about. But when you cremate humans with all those silver fillings around, that accounts for 6% of the environmental mercury in the atmosphere. So the cremation. When I saw the cremation date, I said that was the final nail in the coffin, because in atmospheric cremated mercury in there, ethyl, methyl mercury vapor in the air, 6%, 50% comes from coal, but 6% come from cremating humans, so it's dead.
Yeah, and third world countries still cremate, and first world countries are beginning to do it more.
Oh yeah, everyone's still cremating. I mean, because it's the lowest cost way.
Yeah.
I mean, in America, it's like $300 to get cremated, but probably $6,000 to $10,000 to get a casket, a burial, a plot, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I notice SDI is massively converting to composites, and I mean they're completely changing their portfolio.
Yeah, they make a lot of things. Yeah. And look, here's another topic that you brought up, and is you had some guy, and I agree 100% with what he was saying, is that he was saying that you've got to, and with your amalgams as well, you've actually got to market to people who can't afford dentistry. Like, we do everything, and we give someone the options of, well, you can do a root canal or you can pull out the tooth. Would you like? And we don't push the point, just whatever they want. And there you had someone talking about they do $350 crowns, etc. Very hard to do that kind of quality with, the cost of lab work. We've got a CEREC, so it's probably a bit easier. But I agree that you've got to market to whoever comes in your door. And I think that's another way to avoid recessions in dentistry and to fight everyone. Just don't find a niche of trying to find only wealthy people. Find solutions for people who struggle to find money as well. And so find materials that work for those people also, but don't just close your practice to the lower socioeconomic. Open it up to the upper. So you're seeing everybody, middle class, upper class, lower class, and find ways of dealing with everybody as a whole. So that's what I found worked well, especially after the global financial crisis, is deal with everybody. Just don't deal with one person, and find materials that work for that person.
By the way, how come you didn't send me a thank you card for that global financial crisis since it was started in America? I mean, I figured all my Australian dentist friends would send me a thank you card like, thank you, America. We really enjoyed that financial meltdown. So you, okay, so to be fair, you're in Australia, you're talking about mailing 70,000 flyers every 10 weeks.
Yep.
Okay, but tomorrow you're lecturing in Singapore. That's illegal. So what will you be telling?
What's illegal?
Direct mail advertising. So in Singapore, Hong Kong, China, if they did direct mail, if they put a billboard out, if they had, if they did direct mail, they'd lose their license. So how do you build? So talk about your internal marketing. Pretend you're lecturing in Singapore now. How do you build your practice if you're not allowed? If the Ministry of Health says you cannot do direct mail, you cannot do a yellow pages, you can't do advertising. So how would you build it internally?
Well, you've got to try it. You've just got to have a look at it. So what do we do? The biggest thing is referrals based. So we always send a thank you letter to every single patient that refers to us. You can always send a newsletter to those patients. So we send a newsletter every.
Now, can they in Singapore? Can they send a newsletter
to your own patients? Just
to your existing?
I
don't know.
I don't know either that one.
That'd be a great question to ask your class tomorrow.
They could do the school talks, couldn't they? As an educational thing.
We do that.
Yeah, and just put a letter in there saying, "Hi, FirstBite Dental gave a talk to your school today." So they could do things like that with no marketing whatsoever. It's just a school talk.
And where did that name come from? FirstBite. What does that mean?
My wife thought of it, just FirstBite.
FirstBite?
FirstBite, that's right.
Huh, that is an interesting name.
Yeah, my wife's pretty good. She helps me a lot in the practice.
Yeah?
She's my sounding ground.
And right on.
Yeah, for a lot of things. Yeah. So you've really just got to be smart about it, don't you? You've got to think of how can you do it.
Yeah. So let's switch gears completely to our common buddy and everyone's best friend, Alan Miller of AMD Lasers. Alan Miller Design Lasers. What I loved about him is I'm from Kansas and he's from Indiana. And that's just those boys know how to, wire was formed when two men from Indiana were fighting over a penny. I mean, and when I got out of school, lasers were $50,000. They went up to $85,000. He got that laser down to like $3,500.
Yeah.
And you're a big fan of his Picasso laser.
Well, I've been using the Picasso ever since as soon as it came in Australia. I think I was one of the first to buy one.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was a while ago, 8-9 years ago or 10 years ago when it first came. Because the other
now Alan Miller told me that Picasso was born in Indiana. I don't know if that's true though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but when
it was what year do you think it was that you got yours?
It would have been probably 8 or 9 years ago that I got my first AMD laser. Because the lasers, as you said, they were all $15,000, $16,000, $17,000. And then all of a sudden this laser came out. And I remember Rod Kurthy from the States, and his biggest saying was a diode's a diode, a diode. You can spend $20,000 on a diode and it doesn't matter because it's still just a diode. So when the AMD came out and it's a diode, it does exactly the same as the more expensive diodes. Why would you spend more? So I bought the AMD laser, and now we've got 3 of them because we've got 3 surgeries. We've just opened up 2 more rooms. So we're doing that. So we'll get another AMD. And since then, I've just all of a sudden used it non-stop for a lot of things. Exposing canines, you just cut the little flap and you can put your bracket on straight away. Or you're doing your CEREC, you can just do your gingival tropping, and it's nice and clean and it's moist. And for composites too, like how do dentists put composites when it's bleeding under there? They should use amalgams then if they can't control the bleeding, because you can't bond glue to mud, you can't bond glue to blood. So they should be using amalgam, or get a laser and clean it up a little bit and make sure it's dry, and then do your composite properly. And that's how it should be done. Or a gingival composite, you should use your laser, because exactly what you said, you can't have seepage, you can't have bleeding. And how many times does your slow speed nick the gingiva? And then they go, oh, quickly, I'll put glass ionomer in there, I'll hold my breath, I'll squeeze it dry, and then hopefully it doesn't bleed before I can get my curing light on there. Well, use your laser first and charge for it, and tell your patient, and patients are happy to pay for it. They actually are. They actually want proper dentistry. They want something that's going to last. But dentists assume the patient doesn't want it and they'll be upset. If you just tell them what's happening, most people are pretty decent out there. So lasers are good. I use my lasers a lot. And since then, I like talking, so I got asked by Dentsply to lecture on them, because I was doing it on the side anyway myself, just teaching people how to use lasers. So we're in Singapore doing a laser lecture for AMD tomorrow night. I think there's about 60 dentists coming, so it's going to be a big talk.
Now, Dentsply sells you the AMD laser.
In Australia.
In Australia. You mentioned that you have CEREC, which is owned by Sirona.
That's right.
And those two companies got married this year. Now it's Dentsply Sirona.
That's right.
So so talk about CEREC. So you own a CEREC machine?
Yeah, I love my CEREC machine.
And how long have you had that?
Probably since the GFC.
The GFC?
Global financial crisis.
Which was what? September 15th, 2008?
Yeah, something like that then.
Yeah.
So probably 7 years.
So you bought it after the meltdown?
Well, the government, I was going to buy it, and then the government in Australia, the economy went down, so they offered a huge tax incentive to buy stuff. So I bought it with the tax incentive.
In 2008 or 2009?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's a huge marketing tool, so we do proper diagnosis, and I see a lot of people from country Victoria. They'll come in, one visit, 2 or 3 crowns, go back to their country place. And so it's huge like that.
I missed that. So you're in Melbourne, but you said
in the
they'll
city.
come in from... Melbourne is in the...
We're in the city. Melbourne's a capital city, a city.
Of Victoria.
That's right.
And so you're saying people come in from the rural...
From the rural area.
Far away.
That's it.
They want same-day dentistry.
They want same-day dentistry. It's all done in one visit. And I think the porcelains are pretty good now that they've got. There's a lot of nice porcelains you can put on the machine.
When you say you love it, after you prep, are you scanning, designing, milling, staining, glazing?
Yep,
or does your
everything.
assistant do all that?
I do everything. In Australia, our nurses can't do what your nurses can do in America. Like
you punch the doctor, slap him, kick him.
That's right. Well, your nurses can do a lot of your ortho. We can't. Our nurses can't do it here. So the dentist has to do everything. So that's where it's handy having a few rooms, so I can have nurses who can do the changeovers, and I can walk from room to room to room. So we probably have to work a little bit harder to do the orthodontics. So no, in Australia, I do a lot of that stuff. It doesn't bother me. My hands are pretty quick. I can do things pretty quickly. I've been doing it for a while now.
And what kind of block are you using in the CEREC?
We now use the Dentsply Saltra Duo block. It's a new block they've
Dentsply what?
Saltra Duo.
Spell that.
Seltra Duo, D-U-O.
And who talked you into that? Was that did Mike DeTola talk you into that, or who?
No. The Dentsply rep showed it to me, and then I did my own research. They produced it in combination with Vita, so Vita's actually got exactly the same block.
Now, is that Vita out of Germany?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. So they produce this block together, and Vita's selling it as their own block, and Dentsply's selling it as their own block, but it's actually the same block.
So Dentsply is as their block is outsourced from Vita.
I don't know how they manufacture it. I don't know.
That's what you think, but you think it's a Vita block.
I think they developed it together. They definitely
developed
developed it together.
Do they don't does Dentsply Sirona do they own Vita? Or
No,
Vita?
I think
Vita's
Vita's
totally
their own
still
company.
But you like that block the most?
It's very nice. It's much stronger than the old
And are
Vita
you
block.
cementing it or are you resin bonding it?
Resin bonding it. Yeah.
What are you bonding it with?
NX3?
An X3?
Yeah.
You opened up another can of worms when you were talking about the Picasso laser. Sometimes they'll be bleeding, and a dentist will want to put glass ionomer there. You said glass ionomer. In the United States, they hardly. When you look at the percentage of glass ionomer a typical Australian dentist or New Zealand dentist will use, it's several times higher than the average American. Why do you think that is? Do you think that that's changing or?
I personally don't use glass ionomer. I think it depends who you listen to and who you like to listen to. It's like you can achieve the same result with different materials. I'm more a Bertolotti kind of follower. I've always been more a Bertolotti kind of guy. So
Raymond Bertolotti,
So-
my buddy.
So I've always done what he said, and it works perfectly. Everything he says is true. We actually don't do many root canals in the practice. We're a very busy practice, and
So what's Raymond? So go over what's Raymond.
well, Raymond's just you don't use glass ionomer. You just bond the tooth. You do your primer bond and put your flowable in there and put your composite on
Go
top.
through it, Sonny. What primer? What composite? What flowable?
Oh, you've stumped me there. What the one that's the same company that makes NX3? I've just gone blank on that.
Bisco?
One. No, it's not
Danville?
No, we don't use Danville's product. It's the one that Gordon Christensen recommends at times too.
3M?
No, it's
Kerr?
Kerr. That's it.
Okay.
So
Raymond Bertolotti's a big Kerr user.
no. We just use
Okay.
our own bond system, and we use NX3. They're not Bertolotti products.
Okay.
But it's exactly the same principles.
Australia is home to some big birds of big gurus of glass ionomer like Graham Milicic. Mm-hmm. New Zealand has
Jeff Knight.
Jeffrey Knight's in Australia.
Yeah.
And Graham Milicic is in New Zealand.
And that's why we use more glass ionomers because they talk about
because of those two men.
Like I lecture a lot in New Zealand, and you go to New Zealand and they're all talking glass ionomer, and they're a bit shocked when I say, well, I don't use this stuff and I do more dentistry than you do, and I don't have a lot of root canals coming into my practice from deep fillings. So really either system works. They both actually work, it's just which one are you comfortable with. That's the way I see it. Use either. But it doesn't matter what one you use. You can't have blood and saliva, coming out of your matrix band. So you go to New Zealand and the Australian lecturers are very big there. So they're going to use more glass ionomers because that's the lecturers they get. Whereas if Bertolotti went there more, they'd probably not use it as much.
It's funny that you say that because as you get older and older and older and travel further and further and further, when a dentist starts telling you what they think, I'm pretty good at knowing who influenced them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like as you get older and older and older, you realize people are more parakeets, and you go, "Oh, you're a Graham Milicic fan," or "Oh,
yeah.
yeah."
Whereas if you use a bit of both, well, then you're Gordon Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he uses a bit of both. So, yeah, you can follow who someone listens to.
Yeah, and it is tough when you're talking to 2 million dentists covering all these different continents and countries, and just the infrastructure difference, and just having access to an operatory and high-speed suction and everything that's in your operatory. I mean, half of the dentists in the world don't even have access to that. And so that really is a game changer on what technology. So, are you into implants?
Yep. Do
Are
my
you
own
placing
implants.
them?
Yep.
Or,
Doing everything with implants.
And talk about that.
Well, what do you want to know? I think my statistics are very, very good now with implants because when you first start off, they're very tricky. I think implants are trickier than orthodontics because you could have the best x-rays, the best 3D imaging, you can have anything, but when you go in there, the bone may be like butter or it may just flick off on you. So I think implants are very hard to do. And what I've learned as I've done more and more of them is just pick my cases more. I'm not as gung-ho anymore. And so I just pick them where I can see they've got nice bone and you don't have to do much grafting, or you do it all before and let it heal and then put the implant in there afterwards. So I think implants, everybody should do them. I think the costs will come down further with implants because the novelty will wear off. I don't think we should be offering lifetime guarantees on implants, especially as the costs come down, because I'd say implants in the future are going to be a tsunami of problems with implantitis. I think the new dentist should start learning how to deal with all our implant problems that are going to occur in the future. So implants for me, I love them. I think they're fantastic. I'm just becoming a lot pickier in what I do and don't do. And I still don't have problems creating a bridge if a bridge is better in some cases than trying to graft something and find bone that may not be there.
Well, that's a high sign of intelligence is when you're not an extremist. And so many humans, especially in youth, is everything's binomial, left, right, up, down, black, white. And the young dentists just say, I don't do bridges. And you look at some of the nightmare scenarios, and there was just a tooth on each side. And it's like, you could have just done a 3-unit bridge.
That's right.
And their extremist, crazy, fundamentalist mentality,
Yeah.
they just couldn't do it.
That's right.
Even though every other indicator was saying, no go.
Yeah.
No go. You don't have enough bone. You have to do a sinus lift. You have to do... You're gonna have to walk from here to Kathmandu.
That's right.
And they're just like, I can't file down 2 teeth. It's like, well, if you can't file down 2 teeth, how come you don't blink at filing down a sinus? You know? I mean, how come you can stick half a cow up into the sinus and that's not a problem?
Yeah.
But shaving out the enamel of a bicuspid and a molar is somehow against your dental religion. You know what I mean?
Well, I see bridges I did 25 years ago that are still there. And I don't have 25 years of data on my implants yet. So I think a lot of the bridges are still actually really good that was done a long time ago. So I think what we'll find is it'll sway back a little bit. You know how things ebb and flow. I think it'll sway back to where maybe people might start doing bridges a little bit more again. And maybe doing that root canal again if you've got enough ferrule. You call it ferrule in America? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've got enough ferrule, well, you might go back and start doing root canals again.
And my buddy Gregory explained to me a ferrule. Do you know where the word ferrule comes from?
No. Is it an engineering term?
It was a barrel term. When you had a barrel, you had all these flanks of wood. And to keep all the barrel together, you'd have a little 3-inch ferrule band of metal around the barrel. And that's what held all the boards together. And if you just had a ferrule, so it came from a barrel.
Right.
Barrel making is ferrule. And if you do have 3 millimeters of tooth structure all the way around, it basically works. And if you don't have that 3 millimeter ferrule, and you do your post and your buildups and adhesive dentistry and all that stuff, a lot of times it's just not going to work, especially in the anterior where forces are not straight up and down. But
yeah, exactly. So create ferrule or don't do it. Do something else. Here's another topic for you, because I lecture a lot on Team D. It's been my pet. That's probably my pet topic out of everything. It's just one that's just fascinated me a long time. And I'm noticing a lot of people... See, when I do Team D, I realise that I can only do what I can do with the dentistry part that I can do with Team D. But then I've got a team with me, oral medicine, oral surgeons, physiotherapies, myotherapists, neurologists, ENTs. So I've gathered a team around me for TMD because I realise that none of us have the actual answer. We have to work together. And another thing I'm noticing is people more and more are saying, I'm a TMD expert. And as soon as I hear that word, I think, well, don't go to that person, because no one can be an expert on such a complicated topic. You actually need a team of people who work together, and no one can be an expert on TMD. I've even got a Chinese medicine person I send some patients to, and he deals with their TMD. Who knows what he does, but he gets good results for some people. Yeah, so Team D's, I think, another huge
that's
topic.
another huge factor of success is just being humble. The fact that, I mean, obviously in 2016, nobody understands what's completely going on. And if you absolutely think in 2016 you know all the answers, I mean, you know what you know, that's a little sliver. You know what you don't know, that's maybe a sliver twice as big. But you don't know what you don't know, and that's 98% of the whole pie. And so to be humble and to try things and on a very complex subject like that, you know, temporomandibular disorders, migraines, headaches, I mean, I'm sure 100 years from now, it'll look completely different. I mean, think of all the things that are so different, like just in my lifetime. I mean, when I was in physics in college, they told us that 99.99999% of the space of an atom was all empty. And now it's all dark matter, where all that has the, you know, massive density. You know what I mean? I mean, so it went from 99.999 empty to this massive dark matter, dark energy. You know what I mean? It's like, could they have got it more wrong?
Yeah.
And just amazing. I always tease that 100 years from now, there's going to be a TV series showing in Australia saying, back in 2016, when a human had a toothache, they would take a drill a hole into the tooth, take little wires, pull the guts out, rinse it with bleach, smash pink rubber down into the tooth, and they would do that while the human was alive. And everybody's going to be like, oh my God, oh my God. And then you talk to some people doing root canals today, and they think it's just like complete godly science of all known knowledge. And it's really one of the craziest, most barbaric acts of medicine done on earth today. And I'm sure 1,000 years it'll be in a museum and we'll look like complete idiots. So it's an uneducated, arrogant mind. Arrogance and know-it-all is just a sign of just. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you just have to realize you have to be humble. You have to be humble that you're just trying to do the best you can with what humans have figured out this far in the game.
Yeah.
And we probably haven't figured that much out.
That's right.
And I'm sure 1,000 years from now, this is going to look like the Stone Ages. So my last question to you, it's 57 minutes. I only got you 3 minutes. How many countries have you lectured in?
Oh, lots now. Lots of Europe. Like a fair bit in the States. I was in Washington, D.C. in November. That was really cool doing that. California, New Zealand, lots around Australia. A lot of Asia I've lectured in. I've lectured in China, Singapore, do a lot in Malaysia and Singapore. Nepal I've been to many, many times. We've got the same friend Neil in Nepal.
Neil.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Neil.
Are you ever going to climb Everest?
No, I don't want to lose a finger or a nose.
Have you done any of this? Have you done Kilimanjaro or
No, I haven't done that, but I've done Annapurna, so that's the highest I've ever gotten.
Where's Annapurna?
Annapurna's, I couldn't tell you exactly where it is, but it's 5,500 meters. And I did it 20 years ago, or 22.
I mean, is it in Nepal?
Yeah.
Okay.
22 years ago with my wife, and back then there was no roads, and we just did it in jeans, and we had to buy clothes from the Nepalese the higher we went, because we didn't have a clue what we were doing. So that was a bit dangerous.
I did the tallest in Africa, Kilimanjaro, and I did the tallest in your country. I can't remember the name of the mountain. It's Aussie. It's a mount. It's named after a Polish guy. Mount Ozzy Osbourne, Mount Kosciuszko.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, when I was up there in lecturing in Nepal, I rented a plane to go see Everest, and so there was this chartered company and the 3 or 4 of us, and we chartered I just wanted to see, fly over base camp. Oh my God, I'm so glad I did that, because the tallest mountains in the United States are 14,000 feet. 14,000 feet is the base camp of these things.
Yeah.
And then they go up another 14,000 because they're 20,000 feet.
Yeah.
And I was so glad I saw it, because if you haven't seen it, you might be dumb enough to think, oh, that sounds fun. But when you fly over, you're like, oh my God, that's
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy, crazy. But man, is it beautiful.
Oh, I love Nepal. I love the people there.
Yeah.
They're I feel at home in Nepal. I like it a lot.
And to the listeners out there, it's a little bitty country that's sandwiched in between two great empires of India and China.
Yeah.
And it's a completely landlocked island. And it is the most beautiful. And the people, their clothes are so colorful. The girls are running around in bright purples and yellows and golds. And
Yeah. And they want the tourists to go back because that's their only money.
Right?
Yeah. So go back. Go back to Nepal.
So Nepal's your favorite country to lecture in. If you were talking to these Americans and they were going to go on vacation and make it a tax-free trip, what country would you recommend? Nepal?
Nepal's fantastic, but it's a different world, isn't it? So if you're happy to do that, then definitely Nepal. But they're all great countries. Singapore's fantastic.
Well,
Vietnam and Cambodia, and you can just keep going on. That's why I do the lecturing. Being at work is more profitable, but I just meet so many more people and I get to travel and the family comes with me a lot of the times. And so it's just a great way to live.
Well, I'll be seeing you a lot more in your home territory because now my brother lived there. And my two of my sons love going there. Ryan, have you been there? You haven't been there, so we'll probably go there this year. And Eric, he can't do any traveling with us because he did the marriage kid thing, so he's tied down for a couple decades. But but hey, it was a huge honor that we
Thank you.
that I texted and said, hey, we're both in Singapore, come on by. But really, thank you for all you've done for dentistry. Thank you for all you've done for everybody. Hey, is there one last favor? So on the Dentaltown app, we put on I got on airplane mode. We put up. We just passed 211,000 dentists from every single country on earth, and we put up the online CE is now on your Android and your iPhone. But we put up 350 courses. They've been viewed over 500,000 times. Any chance we ever could get a course on there from you?
Well, we could think about what course would you like.
Well, you know, your buddy Neil, did you see Neil posting the other day on Facebook? Because when he goes to their study club in Nepal, it's hard to get speakers there.
Yeah.
And he throws the course on his iPhone. And with Apple TV, at his study club, he throws it up on the big screen. So there's his study club in Nepal on a big screen, watching a free course on Dentaltown.
Well, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
And we've got a dozen courses by in every genre. And what I like about you is you're keeping it real. I mean, you walk the talk. You're doing this on real people in Australia, and everything you talk about and you lecture, you do. It's not it's not theory. It's not hypothetical. You're not selling a shiny toy. You don't make your money selling objects. You walk the talk. So but it'd just be a huge honor to get an online C course from you.
Yeah, so I'd be happy. I talk
but you
about
can't talk
topics.
like an Australian. You gotta change your accent to Nepalese or Singaporean.
The problem with Australians, we talk through our noses. So really, I've got to hold my nose and talk like this, and then everyone will understand me more.
What I think is funny is when I first went to Australia, you always associate Australia with Foster's beer. And the first time I went to Australia, I had a 15-hour flight. I get in my hotel. I go down to the bar. So I think, I'm in Australia. I'm going to have Foster's beer. They didn't even have Foster's beer.
No, we don't drink Foster's.
I'm like, what? This is Australia, home of Foster's beer. They're like, no, we don't have Foster's beer.
Yeah, we don't
so it's
have
not. So it's a marketing myth in America that all the Australians drink
That's
Foster
right,
beer.
100%. And we don't have kangaroos in our backyards either.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
You're welcome.